Marjorie Taylor Greene is somebody who seems like a deeply unintelligent human being. She says things like peach tree dish instead of petri dish. But maybe she just plays an idiot on TV. We have to remember that while it may be very easy to make fun of her, she is a woman with power. She is a sitting member of Congress. So when she starts putting out videos praising Christian nationalism, we need to remember how dangerous that is. We need to remember that this is a person who is supposed to be protecting American democracy, who is instead promoting fascism. Because Christian nationalism is exactly what Hitler talked about. And to make things worse, she recently hired Milo Yiannopoulos to be an unpaid intern. So please, let's stop making fun of these people. And as galling as it is, concede the fact that they have power and influence, and we need to be very careful and stop them, because otherwise, this is only going to get worse. I don't know if you remember, but at the first March for Our Lives, Emma Gonzalez, who was a survivor of the mass shooting at Marjorie Stone Douglas High School in Florida, gave a speech. And during that speech, she remained silent for over 6 minutes, which was the length of time it took that shooter to finish his rampage. We've learned that in Uvalde, Texas, the shooter was in that elementary school classroom for 78 minutes, while 19 alleged good guys with guns stood on the other side of the door and did absolutely nothing. Imagine how utterly agonizing it would be to sit through those 78 minutes. Imagine it and get angrier than you have ever been. Recently, in the context of the negotiations about gun safety going on in Congress, President Biden said that he considered Mitch McConnell, senator from Kentucky, and John Cornyn, senator from Texas, where the most recent and horrific mass shooting occurred, had victims numbering above 20. He called them rational Republicans. Now, I don't know about John Cornyn, quite honestly, but I've no doubt in my mind that Mitch McConnell is a rational human being. I don't for a second think that he's rational in a good way, though. There is no question in my mind. Mitch McConnell will do everything in his power to put a stop to any hope that gun safety legislation passes. Biden thinks that, quote, there's a recognition on their part that things can continue like this. That's absolute bullshit. They want things to continue like this. Democrats need to stop pretending that Republicans are rational actors in the cause of keeping American citizens safe or American democracy alive. So rational doesn't mean kind, empathetic, and it certainly doesn't mean that you give a shit about the American people. 4 days ago, there was a headline in the New York Times that read, "Is January 6th a winning political issue? We're about to find out." Yesterday, there was another headline that read, "January 6th hearings give Democrats a chance to recast midterm message." What the fuck? This is not about politics. This is about the future of this country. January 6th was not a political policy difference. This is not something that the Democrats need to convince people about one way or the other. This is about a radicalized group of Americans who tried through violent means to overturn the results of a free and fair election. And they were radicalized and egged on by the person sitting in the Oval Office. This is not something that should divide Republicans and Democrats. And for the New York Times to frame it that way is one of the reasons this country is in such dire straits. We need to be clear about this. This isn't about messaging. This isn't about, are the Democrats better at politics than the Republicans or vice versa? This is about the fact that one party, the Republican Party, is totally cool with sedition and treason. This is a no-brainer. And if the New York Times can't get that right, then everybody needs to cancel their fucking subscription. Apparently, Kyle Rittenhouse keeps lying about the fact that he got into a college he didn't actually get into. The latest was Texas A&M. He said he got in, and they claim to have absolutely no knowledge of this, which suggests to me that he didn't actually get in. I guess Kyle Rittenhouse is finding out that really the only group that thinks that having a double murder on your CV is a good thing is the Republican Party. A couple of weeks ago, there was a picture I saw on Twitter that came out very quickly after the leaked decision by Samuel Alito about Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey, which is effectively going to end not just end a woman's right to choose in this country, but it's going to end women's ability to be fully realized citizens in America. And the picture portrayed the three female justices wearing head-to-toe hijabs with their faces covered in traditional Muslim garb. I hear often people refer to any extremism on the right as the American Taliban. When white Americans frame white American extremism in terms of Muslim extremism as if it's somehow separate from anything American, that's Islamophobia. We do not need to go outside of this country to define American extremism. Terrorism in this country is homegrown. Terrorism in this country is driven predominantly and actually almost exclusively by straight white American men, most of whom claim to be Christian. So let's keep that as the frame. Otherwise, we're changing the subject and refusing to focus on the real problem, which is that America is more at risk of domestic terrorism perpetrated by white, straight, allegedly Christian American men than any other group on the planet. These are the things that Republicans blame for the out of control and increasingly lethal gun violence in America. Mental illness, even as they cut funding from mental health services, video games, homosexuality, single mothers, atheism, and most recently and absurdly, and I think heartbreakingly, doors. Apparently, according to what just happened in Philadelphia, the entire city of Philadelphia should only have one door. Thank you, Ted Cruz, you horrible human being. These are the solutions that Republicans have put forward to deal with our gun violence crisis. We need to, as I just mentioned, reduce the number of doors in schools to one, thereby converting schools from shooting galleries into fire traps. We need to harden schools. We need to arm teachers. We need to loosen gun restrictions even further. We need to pray. We need to pray more. We need to refuse to politicize the issue. And finally, we need to avoid talking about solutions in the immediate aftermath of mass shootings, which, by the way, happen on an almost daily basis. So clearly, the Republican Party's position is that guns aren't the problem, and the solution is for all Americans to have access to any kind of gun they want at any time and carry it with them in any way they want, wherever they want. What is the equal and opposite position to that position? Nobody should have any guns ever. That needs to be the starting position. The problem is, in this environment, in America, in the 21st century, after dozens of children have been murdered, have been slaughtered, have been brutalized by weapons of war that should never have been in the hands of an 18-year-old, that position, for there to be no access to any guns at all is the position that's considered insane. Help me make that make sense.